how grief has changed through the years and how grief has affected my kids now that they're older. So, in a nutshell, for me, the grieving process has taken two roads, and it's an unknown which road I'm going to travel on each day, because I'm grieving as a daughter who lost her dad. And then I'm grieving as the caretaker daughter who lost her dad, who she was taking care of. And they are not the same person. It is not the same grief process. It's just two separate entities for me. And I want to also say the grieving process is going to be so different for everybody. The evolution of it, how you handle it, you cope with it, express it, is going to be different for everybody, because everybody is different as an individual, and everybody's relationship with their parent is going to be different. But even if it's a great relationship or it wasn't a bad relationship, no two people and processes for grieving are going to be the same. That's why I never judge anybody with how they're grieving, because everybody is different. So when my dad first passed and I got that phone call from the sheriff's department, and, just navigating everything with family and the process, because my dad was cremated, just handling all that paperwork, I was so thankful. My uncle, my mom's brother, I asked him to come down, and he did, because while I've dealt with stuff on my own and managed things on my own, I was not going to be able to manage this on my own. With my husband, of course, but it was not going to be manageable on my own. So that initial grief process was not the daughter who lost her dad. It was the caregiver daughter who lost the dad she was taking care of. And I felt so guilty, like I did something wrong. That stems from, we were living with them in their condo, and then after I had my daughter, we moved back into our house, because the situation with living with a newborn in a 55 and older community where we weren't allowed to be with, living there anyway, was not going to be a good one. And our house at that time was not handicap accessible, and we knew that should we have to full-time, forever and ever combine households, we would either have to redo the house or move. But moving home, I felt, is what made my dad progress in his health problems and decline, when that wasn't necessarily true. But at the time, I said, it's our fault, it's my fault. So I was grieving heavily as the caregiver daughter who failed her dad, whom she was taking care of. And it's not like when we moved home, I stopped taking care of him. It was just different. And he was able to go back into his own harmful ways without me seeing it and stopping it, which also further made our relationship decline. It's all messy and not simple. But so the first grieving process was as the caregiver daughter. I would say that just daughter grieving for her dad didn't happen until we moved into this current house in 2020. So like a year later, I spent maybe the first year grieving as the caregiver daughter, wondering what I did wrong, what could have been different, what I could have changed. And there was nothing. And I knew it, but that doesn't stop you from asking the questions. So it wasn't until the first year was over did I start grieving as just the daughter who lost her dad. And I didn't have my dad around when we moved, so he would never see this house. I didn't have my dad around to help with the house buying process and the questions I might have about the structure of the homes, because he was a contractor. So then I was grieving as the daughter who didn't have her dad for these big things in her life.